ago, America was a colony of Great Britain. And when we decided to break away from Great Britain, we wrote this Declaration of Independence. So when the students here decided that they'd like to memorize it, I said, oh no, why don't we just all memorize a small piece, and we'll all do it together.
It was forced.
It was forced upon us. But I think it's really neat. They all memorized a small piece of it, and so they're going to present it to you today. I just want you to know that the he that they talk about was referencing the king at the time, King George III. And so we had grievances against him, and Thomas Jefferson helped us very eloquently list those grievances. So, without further ado, in the spirit of 1776, hear ye, all ye free men of these colonies. Said declaration will now be recited to your ears and hearts. May God bless us all, each one.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them.
A decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, but they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That if any form of government becomes destructive on these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it.
And to institute new government, laying its foundation in such form and then organizing its powers in such form as to themselves seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed should dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes.
And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism,
it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such forms of government, provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government.
The history of the present King of Great Britain is the history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having a direct object, the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing the manly firmness, his invasions on the rights of the people. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, recording large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from any punishment for murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states.
For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, and for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses.
For abolishing the free system of English laws in our neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and abolishing and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies.
For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, altering fundamentally the forms of our government. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and declaring war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
He is, at this time, transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun under circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, become the executioners of their friends and brethren who defall themselves by their goods.
Yeah. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers. The merciless Indian savages whose known role of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms, but our repeated petitions have only been answered by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by the legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of our circumstances of our immigration and settlement here.
We've appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity.
We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity of our which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, and peace friends.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world in rectitude of our intentions, do in the name, by authority of these good colonies, solemnly publish and declare
that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political ties between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved.
And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may have right to do.
And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge together
our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.